Is DeepSeek a ChatGPT killer? Don't know, but it's very similar to ChatGPT and yet completely free on web or in the app. And the cool thing is it's getting more powerful all the time. And we saw that this week with their new deep reasoning model, which you can turn, by the way, on by selecting DeepSeek when you prompt it. And this new model looks to be at least on par with ChatGPT's deep reasoning model O1, for which they charge $200 a month. But DeepSeek is free and is also open source, and the API is very cheap. But we're getting quite into the details there, so I thought I just take a minute to explain what these things mean in really simple terms. So firstly, deep reasoning models, sometimes referred to as a chain of thought models, what they do is instead of immediately answering your question, they engage in a conversation with themselves and they work out what you want, what your question means and how to the best way to answer it. And this technique of getting the AI to think for longer, sometimes for a few seconds, sometimes for a few minutes, and it's getting really great results. And DeepSeek's latest model, R1, you can see it talking to itself, right? Thinking through the problem, and it's just so human-like. And it's actually quite cool. You should definitely just have to go with it. And so that's what that means then, and it's open source, so it's released under this license known as MIT, open source license. What that means is it basically makes the technology publicly and freely available. Anyone can look at it, they can change it, they can redistribute it themselves, they can use it personal, educational or commercial projects, and they don't have to pay any royalty to DeepSeek, right? There are some requirements, and two of the main ones are that they have to keep the original copywriting notice and the license details in the source code. And they also have to understand that DeepSeek will not be held liable for anything bad that happens because someone used it. Yeah, so there is open source code and it also allows people to distill the model into something smaller and more efficient in the future, makes it easier to distribute and run on lesser consumer hardware. Potentially something like that. And then there is the API, which for developers of apps is very, very cheap to tap into and use for their apps. So let's say I want to build a fitness app that creates personalized workout plans for you, and I could very easily tap into DeepSeek API and very cheaply do that. Just few lines of code, because you might be wondering why would anyone pay for it? The API, if the whole thing is in open source, the reality is to download the DeepSeek model, which is huge set of files. You wouldn't be able to fit it on your own computer and then run that on servers reliably. So that would be pretty complex and pretty expensive. So it's much more convenient to just outsource all the complexity and expenses and pay microsums of money to call an API each time your users use it on your app or website. So DeepSeek's API cost is very low. It's just a couple of dollars per million tokens output for the deep reasoning model, and it's about $1 for normal chat model for a million token output. And the reason they can charge so much less than the big AI companies that you heard of is because DeepSeek didn't spend hundreds of millions of dollars training their models. They only spent a few million dollars, so the whole thing was just cheaper to put together. If you want more videos about DeepSeek or business solutions, press like and subscribe.